This is Ryan Elliott for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. We're here at the weigh-in for Coley Cieslak, Eddie Hearn. I wasn't expecting that kind of noise today. Very hostile in the end. We saw Artur Spilka kind of leading the Polish fans. Wild turnout.
I know, it was great. I love it. I mean, when you make an international fight, sometimes the sort of manager or promoter of the fight says, "Oh, and we'll bring a lot of support." And you go, "Yeah, I've heard that one before." And then you see it today. You know, we should have over 5,000 in the O2 tomorrow, and they're telling me half will be Polish. I don't quite believe that number, but I reckon we'll have a good number, and I reckon we'll have plenty of noise. And you want that. You know, you saw Cieslak come on the stage, fired up and pumped up, and I think Coley looked over and was like, "Okay, we're going to have a lively night tomorrow." And the atmosphere is going to be great at the O2 for what is a really good fight.
Just to move on to other things, we've spoken about this card a lot this week. Big news broke yesterday. Canelo Alvarez will be on Matchroom and DAZN for at least 2 fights. I got to say, I've asked you a couple of times about Canelo this week, saying, when's the news coming? You've been very quiet, relieved to get it done?
Yeah, I've learned to just keep my mouth shut a little bit over the years. It's very difficult because I like to give you guys all the information. I like to do as many interviews as possible. But this was so big for Matchroom, so big for DAZN, so big for me personally that I've just had to sort of button it. And you know, it's been a 4-week period, probably from when I went to meet him in San Diego, maybe 3 weeks, where we thought we were there and we were close, and nothing was derailed. But it just took a long time because you're tying in multi-fights and making sure those fighters are signed as well. And yes, 2 fights, but ultimately will be a 3 fight. You saw that news. That is true. Myself and Eddie Reynoso working on fight 3 now for December, but he's got to win. You know, of course, the terms are agreed with Gennady Golovkin, but he has to beat Dmitry Bivol May 7th, which is a brilliant, really tough fight. So, focused on that. Press conference in San Diego, massive moment for Matchroom and DAZN and me personally, because I'm a fan at the end of the day, and the guy is just unbelievable. Look at his resume, champion after champion, and now he's signed up to fight 2 more champions straight off the bat.
Just to stick with Dmitry Bivol for now, for all the options he had from 168 to 175, how difficult is that fight compared to what he could have had?
I think it's a really tough fight because, you know, he wants to move up and challenge himself and do something different. He's got one eye on undisputed at 175. He's got obviously the trilogy with Gennady Golovkin, probably the biggest fight in boxing. He's done everything at 168. He's undisputed champion. He's beaten every single champion that was out there in the sport at 168. Money important, yeah, it's a huge deal, but working with us, the challenge of those opponents, we got it done, and we can't wait to get started.
I'm sure you saw your friend Stephen Espinoza was scrutinising you for the launch of DAZN pay-per-view. Your reaction to that?
If you play the clip of what I said, it's very easy to play a clip and stop it halfway through a sentence. He played, pay-per-view is dead, pay-per-view is dead, and kept playing it again. Watch the clip back, which is actually in that thread. Pay-per-view is dead at that price point. I've never said that pay-per-view won't exist, and for very few occasions, for certain superstars in the sport, pay-per-view will always exist. But listen, Stephen Espinoza, I mean, how salty is he to be sitting there last night putting memes out about me? Now, when I saw him at the Caleb plant fight, I went up to him to say hello. I went to shake his hand, and he refused to shake my hand. That tells you everything you need to know about Stephen Espinoza. He's a salty individual. But it's irrelevant because he's no longer involved with Canelo Alvarez, and we'll focus on the future of Canelo Alvarez with Matchroom and DAZN.
In terms of this fight being on DAZN pay-per-view in the US, regular DAZN over here, I've got to say, why now? Why does Canelo Alvarez need to be on DAZN pay-per-view now compared to his previous fights on DAZN?
To be competitive with the way the market, and you've seen the numbers involved in the deal. You know, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. His value, his stock is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the only way you can compete is to produce a model that everybody else is using. You know, the future of DAZN is absolutely not pay-per-view. Will we need that functionality to bring certain mega fights and certain huge stars to the platform? Yes, and there's a great example of it. So that was the model needed to secure the biggest star in boxing, and we got him.
Are there any fighters outside of Canelo and Anthony Joshua that would need DAZN pay-per-view functionality?
No, it's not really even about, you know, one, it's about certain stars, and 2, it could be about certain fights. So, for example, you know, we had the question asked to us a lot. If you bid for Fury against White, would that be DAZN pay-per-view? Absolutely. Right? You know, you saw what we bid. It's just, it's not possible. Now, what we wanted to do, what we will continue to do, is take the traditional pay-per-view that we were doing 4 of a year or 5 of a year off Sky and put that on as part of your regular subscription. You know, big undercards, big fights, big schedules, consistent international schedules. That doesn't change. But yes, the functionality In fact, it's actually a very big moment for DAZN to be able to be competitive in that space, because one of the things which you might not hear, but when we did the deal, was the ramblings from our competitors saying to the fighters, yeah, but they can't do pay-per-view. They can't do pay-per-view. Well, now we can do pay-per-view if we need to. But guess what? For most of your career, probably for all of your career, and just maybe the odd exception, we don't need to do pay-per-view. Because look at Kell Brook against Amir Khan. Good example. You know, probably half of the numbers they hoped it would do. Pay-per-view is fading. Illegal streams are taking over, which we've got to try and get out of the sport. People don't want to pay additional money on top of the subscription time and time again. So pay-per-view is in a tough place. But there are certain fights, Brook Khan, good example, they could never have done that without pay-per-view, of course. But you've got to be careful because the model is changing.
Just a couple of quick ones. We're hearing a third fight could also be put forward for yourselves to work with Canelo Alvarez. How likely is that it could be in the UK?
I mean, we got Makabu in Mexico, we got John Ryder in London. They're 2 fights I'm talking to Eddie Reynoso about. So, yeah, we will be doing 3 fights this year. He has to win, you know, and they're really tough fights. So that's the plan, and we look forward to a brilliant year with Canelo and Eddie.
Last one from me. I came into my head on the way over here. Any update on David Diamante?
Yes, he's going to be with us next week in San Diego. So he will be back for Chocolatito against Julio Cesar Martinez in San Diego.
Eddie Hearn, thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.